everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lilac Doll and thank you so much for joining me. We're doing things a little bit differently today. First of all, I'm going to actually be talking about some art supplies, which is a bit of a deviation from the normal content on this channel, but I'm also just doing a voiceover because I didn't feel like editing a huge video of me talking and everything like that. Someone sent me a gift card for Dick Blick for my 21st birthday, so thank you for that, Hopemore. So I made a video of just testing out the different things and figuring out how I liked them and what I enjoyed about some of them. So I'll try to edit this so you guys can see the marks that this pencil is making more clearly, but I couldn't find any proper pencil sets from dickblick.com. They were all sold out for some reason. I couldn't buy like every single pencil in a range unless I wanted to do that individually. I actually just got two pencils, one that is really hard and this other one that I'm using here that is actually I think that is the hard one. So yeah, this is a 4H pencil. It's not the hardest pencil out there. I didn't realize exactly how phallic this would sound, but it's a decently hard pencil, good for soft shading and whatnot. And then you have the 4B, which you can immediately tell has much darker lines and is just overall easier to deposit graphite onto the page. Personally, I really enjoyed using it. I needed some good pencils for practice sketches while I work on shading and getting the right values for things and all of that. After I felt like I had sufficiently tested out these pencils, I went ahead and started testing out my new Blick markers, which hopefully the colors will be pretty easy to see in this, but I have really been enjoying the Blick Studio markers. They've got a brush tip at one end and a chisel tip at the other. I got these to supplement the 24-pack of markers that I originally got of these, and I honestly feel like the chisel tips on these markers are substantially better somehow compared to the studio markers that I got in the 24-pack. I don't know if they were just a little bit less dry, but I felt like I experienced a lot less skipping and the color payoff was better on the chisel tips. The brush tips were all the same. I really enjoy using their brush tips, and I figured that these softer colors, which you're about to see once I get through with this neon chartreuse and that teal green, I figured these softer colors would be a little bit better for, drawing things that weren't quite so vibrant. I felt like that green was a little bit dry and a little bit transparent for my taste. You can see how at the beginning of the stroke with the chisel tip, it's a bit more opaque than at the end, which can look a little streaky if you're not careful. And then I got this white Magnolia color. Honestly, it's hard to see it on the camera. I think you can kind of see it, but I really appreciate having shades that are just not quite white whenever you don't really want to put something that's going to be that overpowering on the page, but you don't want it to look empty or barren. And then I got a dusty rose color, which I'm using there. That one is also a good one. I think I'll probably end up using that for blush or lips or things like that if I start drawing faces anytime soon. Sorry, this was dusty rose. The one before that was rose smoke. This is a Pitt artist pen from Faber-Castell. It is in the size F. I've been using this pen a lot since I got it. I actually have it in my hand right now and I'm fidgeting with it, and I never noticed how much I fight against fine tip markers and how much I had been accustomed to putting lines down and then having them smear and run and move and not hold the detail that I originally put into them. So this pen has honestly been one of my favorite purchases. I wasn't expecting to feel like a fine liner was going to be a game changer, but in some of the things that I've been drawing since I got it, I have been so pleased with it. I also got a Prismacolor art gum eraser, mostly just so I could stop using up the erasers on the ends of my pencils, because I've found, it turns out if you try to sketch faces, most of what you do is just erase. I needed something to help that out. Next, we have a very, very fun part of this whole little art haul, and that is the Holbein, I think it's Holbein, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, Artist Gouache. This is their primary color set, and what really pushed me to get this set over a few others that I saw was that this came with a proper magenta, which, if you guys aren't familiar with some of like the pigment properties, red is not actually a primary color. Red is the combination of magenta and yellow. If you don't have a magenta, you can't make all the colors. And if you have magenta, you can make red and you don't have to worry about the rest of it. That's why I got this set. I loved using this gouache set. I was really trying to be sparing with these little tubes. I wish the tubes were a little bit bigger, but we'll see. Maybe I won't go through them as fast as I expect. Forgive my Tupperware lid palette. I could not justify spending $7 on the little flower palette that I really wanted. It just seemed like a bit of an excessive purchase. The one downside to not mixing on a white palette is you don't really know what color you're getting whenever it's tainted by the color of what's underneath it. But that was the magenta color. I'll probably be looking for some fine brushes. This is just a brush that I got from a set at Walmart, one of those multi-purpose mixed media packages where it comes with the acrylic and the watercolor and the oil painting brushes. I ran out of color pretty quickly with that brush and I decided to switch to another one. But as you can see, it's a really pretty color and it has a lot of variance in its opacity. I think that that's a color that just could stand on its own. You don't necessarily need to mix that with other colors to make it pretty. Then I tested out the yellow and I was so pleasantly surprised to see just how pigmented this yellow is. I've done a lot of makeup, I've tested out a lot of eyeshadows, and I've kind of accepted that yellow is one of those colors that's really hard to get a good pigmentation on, especially in eyeshadows that are meant to blend. So this super opaque gouache was a nice deviation from that background. And then I started blending it with the magenta, which you can see it immediately starts to get into something closer to a red. And then I put in some more magenta and it kind of got more pinkish. It made some really nice colors. And then we had the cyan, which is technically cyan, but I wrote out blue, more brush struggles. So I switched brushes again. I wrote out a dirty brush. I think I'm brush shaming it there. And it's just, oh, I love that blue so much. And the colors, they fade so nicely. I could have done more exercises with blending them into each other, but I was just having so much fun making different colors with them. In real life, those showed up as being more purple than blue. They are still so pretty. Just, look at that. Can you imagine if someone with better painting skill was doing this and the beautiful things that they could make? Because the medium itself, the paint itself, is pretty cooperative. It really doesn't offer any particular challenges in terms of blendability or color. Now at this point I was mixing white on a dirty brush and I had a lot of water on that palette, so I didn't give my white a good opportunity to show its capabilities as a paint, but it's there. I mean, I'm sure I would use it in blending or lightening up certain areas on a painting. I don't think it would have any issue with that if I were not using it inappropriately. Up next for testing is the Finetec Pearlescent watercolor set. I actually did buy some black paper to test this on, and I did eventually test it on this, but I didn't want to immediately jump into it with my expensive black watercolor paper, so I actually just went ahead and put down some color on a piece of copy paper with my Blick Studio markers so that I could then put the paint onto those and see how it looked. I tried to give myself a wide variety of shades to work on top of, but honestly, I think the black color did the best. Something I was a little bit unsurprised by, but still disappointed with, was something I had seen in a few other people's videos where they tested these paints, and when they're in the light and they're sparkling and you can see the pearlescence, they're beautiful, they're gorgeous. They have a really good pigmentation to them and they're just a dream to work with. But you'll see whenever I get to some of the other colors that the non-pearlescent pigment that is under the shimmer is kind of muddy. There were a lot of blues that had some kind of brown pigment underneath them, and it just didn't complement them very well, especially if you sheared them out with water too much and the pigment kind of took over and overshadowed the shimmer. Then you just wind up with kind of a murky brown color like you can see on the white part of the page there. Using these on anything other than a colored background is still going to kind of run into problems, and you're going to get something very different than what you're getting in the pan. These golds were just some of the most gorgeous golds to work with. I absolutely love them. I cannot wait to actually make some good art with these, even using these on, say, a normal watercolor or marker portrait, and then putting some highlights in the hair, or maybe they've got feather extensions with little metal bits and bobs and the glitter strands. I think just that would look so pretty with this. After I tested all the colors, I went ahead and got out one of the black sheets of paper and tried to draw in a very small corner, using up as little of the black paper as I could, but really trying to see what this looked like on a watercolor paper, and it performed so beautifully. I didn't have any wonderful artistic ideas for what to do with this, so I was kind of just doodling around and testing out the different colors, but I really appreciated this paper. I'll link to the specific products that I got below, but I think it was a cold press paper from Stonehenge. I think that sounds right. It has a really nice texture, and it was really good at keeping the watercolor exactly where I put it, but not being overly textured to the point of losing any kind of detail. I also used a lot of water with these paints, but I didn't notice any kind of warping or distortions in the page, even after I came back to it after the next couple days. And that's basically everything I got. I did get some white watercolor paper from Strathmore, but I didn't use it, and I still haven't tried it yet, so I don't have a first impression, but I assume that it's probably going to be pretty uneventful, as it's just a pretty common watercolor paper. So another big thanks to Hopemore for sending me the gift cards that I could get some of these things. I am sure that they will be used for lots and lots of fun creative things. Hopefully once I get more familiar with gouache and watercolor, I can start making more things with those. And the markers, I've actually posted a couple pictures on my Twitter already with some of the doodles that I've been making with those. But that's it from me. If you enjoyed this, make sure you go subscribe to my channel, give a thumbs up, and I will see you guys all next time. Bye!